Hello, welcome to another episode of Engineering Our Future podcast. I'm Nicolai here with Luis, and we also have a special guest, Danny, which Danny will get to your introduction here in a minute. But Luis, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm actually excited about this. I don't think we've done really any interviews together in the last 2 years we've been doing this. So this should be a good episode.
Yeah, I'm real excited. Danny, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Nikolai. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. So, uh, Danny is residing in Colorado,
Mhm.
and I'm lucky to have him as part of our highways team. But Danny, would you just take 30 seconds and kind of share who you are? How'd you get into this field? What have you enjoyed about engineering so far?
Well, yeah. As you all may know, my name is Danny. I graduated in 2024 from the University of Illinois with a degree in civil engineering. I've been with Jacobs just under a year. My anniversary is next Tuesday, so that's a pretty exciting day that's coming up. Got into engineering. I've always been fascinated by infrastructure, how things are built, and moving people from place to place, which is why I got into transportation. My passion has always been trying to get people from place to place efficiently. So I joined Jacobs on the Roadways team, but eventually my goal is to become some sort of engineer that allows for more walkability, urban mobility, transit. Big fan of European cities, and I think we can implement a lot of their style of living into our society, and I think that's something beautiful. Um,
I
yeah.
love that. I do love that you have kind of a targeted passion already. It's not just I want to grow in my career, but I love that there's a specific element of engineering or group of people or things that you want to already serve and make life better, right? So I do love that. I've enjoyed learning that about you over the last few months. So Luis and I had a recent episode where we talked about doing things out of your comfort zone. And we learned that Luis was taking piano lessons. So how is the practice going since that episode, Luis?
Good. I think when we talked last, that was my second ever class, which is, I've never really done any music, so I didn't know how to like read music or really do anything. So, yeah, I'm just kind of learning and enjoying the process, which I think is kind of what we're gonna be discussing here, and maybe it's a good starting point on you, Danny. Like, been that thing that gets you out of your comfort zone, and yeah, just kind of let's explore that and discuss that.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, it's also been the music. I grew up writing and recording music, and it's always been a sort of escape for me from the real life world, as I like to call it. You know, school at one point, and now work. It allows me to separate work from not work, and allows me to kind of shut off the part of my brain that is active during work and allow it to rest so that I'm ready, the next day or the next week to pick it up again. I think it's very important to have, to give your brain a rest.
Oh, of course, it definitely is important to give your brain a rest. And the theme for today is really what are some of these things that we do outside of our jobs that might make us better engineers? And maybe it's something that's totally not related to engineering. And that's why, Danny, your story was kind of a big draw for us because I don't know that many engineers who are recording musicians, right? I don't know many engineers who have an album on Spotify and stuff like that. And so I just thought, wow, this is so unique. And, maybe it inspires somebody else to try something unique, and I'll just share before I get to my next question for you is, my daughter, she definitely has an analytical brain, my oldest daughter. And I see her and I see how she puts things together. She's always like trying to create things and like she made a kite out of just paper and some string she found and it worked in the backyard. It was just really cool. But like she's never actually flown a real kite. So just seeing how her brain works. But then for her, her creative outlet is she loves to crochet. I mean, she's 8 years old and she sits on the couch like an old 80-year-old woman and just crocheting away, and she's actually getting pretty good. So I just love that this creative outlet for her she's already exploring various things. Uh, my outlet more is along the line of golf, and I do like the strategy of golf and the mental game of golf, which I could go into for a long time, and I won't. But for you in the arts, it's very unrelated to engineering. So I am curious how the arts really helps you make become a better engineer.
Well, I mean, engineering is the field of solving problems, and when you have to solve problems, you got to get creative. So having that creative outlet allows you to expand, um, in my experience, on that creative side of your brain. It allows you to come up with ideas that you probably normally wouldn't come up with when using the analytical side of your brain. So, it allows for a different perspective on life, and I think transferring that into engineering is a big help because it allows you to think outside the box.
Hmm. Yeah, I
And
totally see that.
yeah, and I think with that, I mean, something that I was kind of curious about, again, as someone that has never really done music at all, besides the last couple of months, what are kind of some of those skills that you have seen kind of transfer from your music? And it could just be just a way to like zone out about all the technical stuff. But I'm sure there's a lot of like technical stuff, even in that way of art and music that you enjoy doing, obviously, but has probably also helped your engineering career a little bit in terms of maybe me being more focused on a deadline at the end, or being able to like see
Hmm.
different perspectives on a project. I'm just kind of curious about how maybe those skills have transferred into like your engineering job.
Think the big one is attention to detail. When I'm mixing a track or producing something and finishing it up, I'm there listening for the smallest of errors, the smallest of things, the smallest of details that the average person wouldn't hear, but I hear it, and fixing that. Going into engineering, when you're working on a project approaching a deadline and you're in CAD, and there are so many little details that you've got to take into account, I think having that for me allows me to expand on those skills.
Hmm. That's
you know
awesome.
I think that's the biggest skill, that's translated for me. The other thing is, the ability to zone out and think of something else. If you're thinking, I think if I would be thinking about engineering 24/7, I would burn out. Same on the other side with music. If I was thinking about music 24/7, I would burn out on that hobby. It's a balance that I think everybody has to strike between, um, what they do for work, what they do in their life, and what they enjoy.
Yeah. So I kind of want to do a follow-up question on the balance side of things. So I guess two-parter here would be one, do you ever find it difficult to kind of turn off the music side? Maybe you got in a really great zone one evening or one weekend, and you're like, crap, now I got to go back to work and do all this engineering stuff. That's an honest answer, an honest question there for you. And then the second one would be, maybe kind of expand on some ways that you try to create balance. You try to be intentional with boundaries and stuff like that. So we can expand on the boundaries part next, but yeah, what about the balance and turning it off?
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult, but boundaries are the answer to that, at least for me. I know that work time is work time. So when I'm working, that's my time is dedicated to the work. If an idea comes into my head, I'll let it be there. I'll pop up my phone and do a quick voice memo. It'll happen. But I'm not going to spend hours riffing that off until I have, the time to do it after work when I have my own time. It's about setting boundaries, but it's the same thing where if you're doing something creative and, something related to a project comes into your head, I'll write it down and look back on it on Monday or whenever it's time to work, and apply that. It's setting boundaries, but not being so rigid that you can't let the idea flow.
And I think that's such an underrated skill as well. Even like just thinking about like project work, like when you're focused on a project and then you get an email about a different project that you're not working on right now, like do you just switch gears and start working on that? Like I think that skill of just making sure you're focusing on one thing is one that I've struggled a lot too, just in terms of like the podcast. I have ideas all the time and have to write them down and whatnot. But I think in general, people can start even practicing that, even if they don't have something outside of work. Just thinking about like you have 5 different projects. If you start dividing your attention throughout the day, you're really not gonna make progress on any of those. So focusing on one of them is a smart idea. So I think that's a great kind of benefit of having that discipline of being able to compartmentalize one thing and focusing on that.
Yeah, you said it better than I could. If I'm focusing on two things at once, neither of them gets done. So I have to lock in on one thing, and then when that's done, I can go in to the other. You know, when I'm working on projects, maybe multiple projects under the same PM, I will, you know, almost beg the PM to tell me what is priority so I can focus on that, get that done, and then move to the other thing. Because the back and forth, it takes longer for me at least to adjust to switching than to actually finish something and then be done with it and switch over.
What about, I'm curious to see if there's any relation that you've seen. You sing, you do the guitar, you do all these other instruments, and then you put them all together. I mean, you're pretty much doing your songs, everything from what I
Yeah.
understand in our conversations. Uh, how do you see that? How there's multiple layers, multiple pieces coming together, and how that relates to some of our engineering work?
Well, I mean, pretty just that's just how it is. In engineering, you've got your multiple disciplines and multiple layers to every project. You know, you're designing a road, but you're not only worried about the roadway. You're worried about the drainage. You know, you're worried about the soil. You're worried about what pavement you're going to use. There's so many different aspects to that. And just like with a good, well-produced song, you're going to have your different instruments, your different elements to it. So that skill definitely translates very well to be able to understand where the layers lie, I think is the best way to put it.
Do you think that will benefit you, like seeing that in a different area other than engineering in our work? Do you think that that could help benefit you later on when you are leading a project and you're trying to organize everything? Do you think there's a benefit there that you're learning now without really even realizing? All right.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a benefit there because it is such an important aspect in our careers to be able to organize all these different layers. So learning that skill so early in my career because of the outside influences of the hobbies that I pursue, I think is an invaluable skill.
Yeah.
I have a question, just in terms of how you started just being interested in music, and maybe give us a little clue into how someone like me that just started learning music, like what is a good way to kind of enter this maybe more artistic way, just coming from an engineering mindset.
Mm-hmm. I grew up playing. So I started playing guitar when I was about 10 or so years old, if I remember my years correctly. But yeah, I always had the passion for it. But I think anybody can, you know, do something artistic. Because I think everybody's got that little bit inside them that they can, you know, enhance by practicing. It's all about practice. The more you practice, you're gonna start getting ideas in your head about, hey, this might sound good or this might sound good, and then that's how you get creative with it. And then maybe these words will go well with this little piece that I've just played, and that's how the building blocks of songwriting are formed. So the more you practice, the better you're gonna get at that, and the more you're gonna learn about, you know, music theory, and you're gonna be able to bring it all together eventually. It's just practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, and I think one of the best advice that was given kind of early in my career is, I mean, engineers, yeah, we're very technical and everything, but we still need to do a lot of writing. We need to do a lot of kind of not like very artistic things, but just kind of out of that technical mindset. And I remember this one of my first job, I think it was like 2 years out of school. My supervisor said, when you're putting a drawing set together, a set of calculations, you're basically telling a story. You wouldn't just go from the beginning and then jump to the end. Like, you have to have that middle explanation, and just as you walk through the plan, say you're telling that story of how to construct the house or that bridge or whatever. So I think that's something that I've carried with me since then. And just as I'm looking at plan, say like, do we have all the details? Do we have the beginning, the middle, and the end of our story of how to build this? Like, is there any missing pieces? Same with the calculation. So thinking about the artistic way as well, like, you don't write a song and then you just jump from the very low tones at the beginning and then jump to the end to the end of the song. You have that process of you start and then you kind of build to the end and kind of write it that way. So I think there's a lot of similarities when you look for them. And as engineers, I think we're a lot of times just stuck in the mindset like we're just number crunchers and we just focus on the technical stuff. But the things we do a lot of times can lead us to those different paths, which I think it's super exciting to explore at times.
Absolutely. At the root of everything, there are a lot more similarities than a lot of people would care to admit. I would say. And, we found, like you said, in the writing of a song, you're also telling a story. You're not going to write something that doesn't make sense. You're going to tell the story just like in, any engineering plan set, like your supervisor said. And I'm going to take that one into account too, because that's definitely a way of seeing it that honestly I had not taken into account for, preparing plan sets and such.
Yeah, I liked that a lot too. Well, Danny, Luis, do you have any other questions for now?
No, I'm just. I think you mentioned you have some songs on Spotify and that. I'm curious to hear how we can find them, and I'm sure we'll be able to link all that in the show notes and whatnot. But yeah, this has been great, and yeah, I think the last question should just be how people can reach out to you if they have any questions or, if they want to connect with you.
Yeah. So my music is under the artist name of Rayo Lejano, RAYOLEJANO. It's in Spanish, but I write music in English and Spanish. My first album's on there. I've got a new single coming out on July 11th, so I'm very excited to share that. It's called Windows. For all my music stuff, you can find that on Instagram, or if you just Google the artist name, I'm sure you'll find it there. You'll find my Instagram, you'll find my Spotify, and it's probably easier than speaking out all my URLs or something. But yeah, that's how you can reach me. And anybody at Jacobs can just shoot me an email too.
Well, I really appreciate you joining us and just kind of sharing your art and sharing how, it's totally unrelated to engineering, but as we all learned today, there are total benefits that can help your professionalism and all of that. So, it was so great to chat with you this morning, and hopefully we can have you on the show again in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This was a really great experience. First podcast interview is always a little bit nerve-wracking, but I had a great time. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, you're going to love the content we have over our newsletter. Every issue comes packed with information about the episode that we recorded, giving you detailed action items as well as just reflection on some of the things that you could apply in your career, in your life. And I always enjoy sitting down on a Sunday, Saturday sometimes, and writing down each newsletter. Comes packed with a lot of information, a lot of links, a lot of great lessons and knowledge that we share both in the podcast, but I'll try to go a little deeper into that connection. So if you're interested in that at all, go to luisfelipeduque.com/newsletter. All the information is there. I'm excited for the podcast and where it's going. So I want you to know about that resource as well. Nicolai and I put a lot of effort in the podcast and we're enjoying the conversations. And as well, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, go to the link in the description below or luisfelipeduque.com/contact. And let's connect. We're happy to provide you with all the information you need and always excited to have that conversation as well. Thank you, Jack Winters, for the music. And as always, let's continue engineering our future.